Hey, how you doing, guys? Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a nice day, as usual. Quick announcement about the video about how to get your first job. It's kind of weird because there was some kind of strike at the beginning of the video, so I had to trim like the first 6 minutes of the stream. This is not a problem. This is just mainly the introduction and the first like 20 seconds of me talking. So just asking you how you are doing. So we are not losing anything, but it's just that apparently the song, even though it was a video game song, is copyrighted. So I had to trim that off for it to be allowed on YouTube. Aside from that, it's doing great. And today, following up on our week about the first job, we're gonna talk about negotiation, how to handle that properly, how to lock up a decent salary, decent conditions, and how to avoid getting wrecked, mainly. Oh, it's Tassila, this is fine. So we just missed the cute owl introduction, and that's fine. That's fine. So, let's talk about negotiations in general. First of all, it will be mainly about negotiation for your first job and for salary condition. Not that much about freelance. Again, I do not really advocate to start as a freelancer unless you are very good and companies are already reaching out to you, or you are part of a freelance agency. In that case, the agency is negotiating for you, like an outsourcing studio and stuff like that. So you are in-house, you have a salary, and they are negotiating for you. So bear with me. It's when you are in-house. I know with the lockdown situation, we might be working from home, but it's still about salary, not about getting paid as a freelancer, like on a daily basis. It's about a monthly based payment, not a daily paid. So, about negotiations in general, if you are already talking negotiations for a salaried job, generally it's already a good sign if you are there. Sometimes it happens right from the start, but it's very rare for a first job. It happens pretty much all the time for freelance, like, hey, what's your budget? After they introduce you to the product and what they need, it's like, hey, what's your budget? This is fun as a freelancer because we don't really have time to talk too much in freelance. But for a first-time job, as I say, there is the gatekeeping process of the hiring process. So first they review your portfolio, and there is often a very first interview to see your personality. Then there is the art test. Then there is often the second negotiation when you are doing the shit test and stuff like that. And during that second interview, there might also be the negotiations. A lot of the time, if the HR, the company is doing their job well, it should be after the shit test. Because the shit test will basically determine how much they can bully you on the negotiation side. Bully is a very strong term, but you get my point, and you will see later. So it's very important that you succeed at the shit test and the behavioral questions, as we have seen yesterday, in order to make sure that you are in a strong stance for you to negotiate properly in your favor. So it's already a good sign if you are there. And also, this is just a presentation to lay out the absolute basic foundations of negotiation for you in order to avoid getting paid the minimal wage and doing a metric ton of unpaid overtime just because you allowed that to happen to you. This is the main problem. The main thing about that presentation will not be how to negotiate rockstar salary right from the start. There is no secret method about that. There are ways to optimize your first salary. We'll talk about that. But you won't get paid as a senior if that's your first experience. There's anyone telling you otherwise is a liar or don't know what they are talking about. But a lot of schools tend to be like, hey, once you escape from school, you'll be already an art director right from the start. No, doesn't happen. So most of the time it's about, again, not screwing that up and not allowing the company to bully you and to beat you down in terms of negotiation. The first thing I will say, this is going to be weird, but it's exactly like negotiation. If you can see the entire hiring process as a game with some rules, you need to understand the rules to figure out the meta and to play with the meta in your favor in order to win. It's exactly what we talked about in the last two presentations. For negotiation, it's exactly the same. It's like a game. And here are the rules of the game. The company, the client, wants the most work out of you as possible while paying the smallest amount of money as possible. You want the most money as possible from the company while working as little as possible for them. And negotiations, it's basically the fight of finding a middle ground in between that kind of satisfies both parties without completely fulfilling what they want. Of course, you might think about exceptions like, hey, I asked for something and they didn't even argue against that. Guess what? This is cool, but if they didn't argue against that, it means that you could have asked way, way, way more than that and negotiate to get a bit more. So it has no negotiation. In some ways, you lose. This is kind of harsh. Unless you can get spot on, which can happen, but it's very rare. But generally, if they agree on your terms and your price right from the start, they either really, really want you, which is almost never the case for a first job, or else they really, really want what you do and they are willing to pay whatever price. This might happen, but more in freelance once you have a lot of experience, a great identity as an artist, and they look for what you are doing best. But this is not the case for that presentation. The first thing you need to do is understanding the situation you are into. You need to always remember, as we said yesterday and in the previous day, that working for someone is a kind of relationship. And whether it's during a first contact interview or negotiation interview, always remember this. In a relationship, if it's becoming asymmetrical, the person who has the power or the party who has the power in the relationship is the one who needs the other the least. So in short, if you are applying to a company, they have the power. So it's comply or goodbye. If they are reaching out to you, you have a bit more power. So in order to understand that situation and to figure that out, if you have a doubt, just ask yourself, in that current situation, am I a gem or am I replaceable with the snap of a finger? If you are replaceable with the snap of a finger, your negotiation leverage power is a bit low and you will mainly need to make sure that you don't get beaten down by having some safety nets established. If you are indeed a gem and they really want you and you are irreplaceable, then you have a bit more of a margin in order to negotiate favorably towards you. Okay, let's get started. The thing you need to do then, once you have understood the situation, is first about listening. It's about making it about the other party, validating their emotions, and creating enough trust and safety for a real conversation to begin. This is exactly what we talked about yesterday and the previous day. Trust is everything. It's the main factor that will get you hired or not. Get trusted on your work with your portfolio. Then you get trusted on your overall personality and your congruency during the first interview. Then you get trusted on being able to deliver good enough and fast enough work with the artists. And if you manage to do the behavioral interview before the negotiation properly, you also generated trust on your personality, your ability to be a team worker, a team player, your ability to be a nice person, to be motivated. The last remaining point, the reward for that is accessing the negotiation. Always remember, as we said previously, that the companies are risk averse. They are always thinking in losing money. So when they see you, they always see the risk. What happens if that person does not deliver? What happens if we lose money by hiring that person? Because for whatever reason, this person managed to bypass all of our gatekeeping processes and tricked us up and into hiring that person, and now it's just sucking out our money without delivering what was promised and what we were expecting. So they're always playing the devil's advocate. So first of all, the first part of a negotiation is establishing a safe and sane and trustful environment where they trust you, they can relax a bit, and you also, because you gain their trust, they are more willing to listen to you too. That's where the real conversation is starting to begin. Then what you need to do, this is going to be a very fast presentation, I think. For a first job, let's get real. You won't get Rockstar level payment. By Rockstar level, I don't mean Rockstar the company, but Rockstar like a fucking rock band, like paid 1 million the gig. No. If you avoid minimal wage for a first job in a company, in a big company, it's already very good. For your first job inside the company, most of the time the negotiation happens when they think you will be able to do the job. So now it's again just about not screwing that up. So don't expect Rockstar level salary. You are a junior doing junior's job, which is basically, as we said previously, doing... I'm sorry to tell you that, Tassila. I'm so sorry.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer? Every night, I can feel my leg and my arm.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're a junior, so you're doing junior work, which is basically everything that the seniors and the art director don't have the time to do, but still needs to be done anyways. So it's not what will be the most impactful on the financial success of the game. So as you are not bringing the biggest amount of value, you are not getting the biggest amount of the rewards too. That's part of the game. That's fine. It's just the first job. Then you can level up and grow. It's going to be better. What you need to do is to make sure that you are paid enough to be financially independent with your bank account remaining in the green at the end of the month. At a company, if they really care, which generally they do, they can't argue against that if you word that properly for a full-time job. You just need to word that properly, and there's no way they can't argue against that. Otherwise, you can logically and rationally explain to them that, hey, it's not even worth it to move, because I can't live with that. In France, and overall in Europe, we have an official rule that you see all the time by landlords and landladies or real estate agency. They want you to earn at least 3 times, before taxes, 3 times the price of the apartment that you are renting. So let's say it's 800 euros. You need at least 2.4k if you want to even have a chance to get that apartment. Some real estate companies now are like, no, it's 4 times, because they are so afraid now with the lockdown situation and stuff like that. So basically, something you can tell a company is, well, we are talking about a full-time job at the moment. A full-time job means being financially autonomous and being able to pay my bills on my own. A small studio, currently around 25 meters square, in the town that you are established, costs around X amount of money. So I need at least 3 times this in order to even be given a chance to rent an apartment. So this is the absolute minimum I need to ask you for. Otherwise, I can't even move there. And they have no way to argue against that. Generally, they are not in some very small towns where the rent is like $400. They're generally in big cities or expensive cities. So if it's like Annecy, the average for an apartment was $750. So 750 times 3, it's 2.25k. Got 2.23k. 2.35k, sorry. You get my point. You pick a 25 meter square studio around the city, in the city around the studio, multiply it by 3. That's the minimum they have to pay you. That's how you secure the minimum you have, and it's generally above the minimum wage. 2,350 euros, which was my first salary. It's basically on 10 months, it's... Yeah, so basically it's around... Let me check that. It's 28k and 200 euros per year. So this is the average for first salary, at least in Europe. You can set that domain. So this can work generally unless you live in a very expensive city like Paris, New York, LA, London. So you won't be able to, like in Paris, 25 meters square, nearby a studio might be like way above 1,200 euros. Asking for 360k, 3,600 euros out of the box for your first job might be a bit too much. But you are living in Paris, so instead of asking for 2.3k, you might ask for 2.5. Justifying that, yeah, Paris is expensive. I have to move. I need to be financially independent. Rent is expensive, food is expensive, Paris, transportation is expensive in Paris. So unless you can help me with other ways, I need to ask for a bit more. Then you need to figure out how to get your rent. But it's pretty hard to ask for too much in those very expensive cities. But you don't want to live with 5 roommates sharing a box of ramen at the end of the day. Because you have a full-time job, you should be financially autonomous. So you need to remind them about that. You're not flipping burgers at McDonald's or doing a slave wage job. You're in a very elitist field. You should be paid decently. Plus you made some years of work before in order to access that. So you deserve that amount of money. But of course, most of the company, they would love to pay everyone the minimum wage. Of course. So yeah, if you're living in one of those big cities, very expensive, having 3 times the price of a rent might be a bit hard, but you can definitely ask for a bit more than in a cheaper city. Generally, about the numbers in general, it's kind of hard. You will hear very different numbers from people. Truth is, there's no real numbers that are fixed. You have some averages, but it's all about your abilities to being assertive, negotiate properly, and have good arguments in your portfolio. In average in Europe or in France, people for junior are talking about 22 to 28k euros per year for a junior. I think you should aim indeed for around 28k per year, which is what I had, probably still accept 25k, but not allow for under 22k. Otherwise, it's becoming very tough financially. As I said in the presentation about debt, with the salary I had, which was 28.2k per year. If you have a 30k student loan on your head, you end up with less than 100 euros per month in your bank account if you are not started paying your loans. This is not acceptable. This is absolutely not acceptable. That's up to you, but 100 euros on your bank account at the end of the month, if you have just a slight accident, your computer broke, your cat ate a box of chocolate, you need to visit your grandma at the hospital, you need to pay for the train, you broke your leg, you can't walk, you need to replace your oven that burnt, you're dead. In the red financially. You can't accept that. So first of all, you need to pay your student loans previously in order to reduce the debt. But as a salary, it's kind of low in my opinion. So, and this is with 28.2k. Imagine with 22. With 22, you don't even finish with something on your bank account at the end of the month. This is not acceptable. Also, if you only start with a 6 to 12 month contract, you can emphasize on the fact that landlords and real estate agencies will be even more reluctant to rent you an apartment with such a short contract. So maybe you can ask for even more in order to convince them. Generally, the company will vouch for you. Sometimes they don't. For Ubisoft, for example, they were able to have an apartment hunter for me. So someone got me an apartment and Ubisoft vouched for me. So if they are vouching for you and they have a system for you to relocate, in that case, it might be a bit tougher to negotiate that. If they don't, you need to jump on that opportunity to ask for a bit more money in order to convince the agencies. You need to ask them if they have relocation services. That's pretty much it. If you manage to secure that, between 25 and 28k, at least in Europe, a year, are already doing better than a lot of artists that start at the minimum wage. And don't feel ashamed to ask money because AAA companies, they are making millions of dollars. So don't be like, again, don't be like Bob. Bob was like, boo-hoo-hoo, I'm asking so much money by asking 2k per month to a multi-million-dollar company. I feel like I'm robbing them.
You deserve a kick in the nuts.
Don't feel shame. It's part of the game. They have plenty of money. And guess what? You're still a bargain. In case you are starting with freelance, you should definitely ask for a minimum of 200 euros per day. Like minimum. And get to 300 to 400 as soon as possible. Above 400 is starting to be a bit tough in Europe in general. But 200 to 400, you can close the gap in like 1 year. But don't fall into the trap of, hey, we are paying you $100 a day. At the end of the month, it's 200 and it's $2,200. So yeah, this is good and stuff like that. No, because it's paid in freelance, so you are paying all the taxes on your own. They are not paying any taxes. So basically, they are getting you for twice as cheap as if you were in salary for the same price. So you need to ask at least 50% more. If you're not starting at 3k per month in freelance, you're getting robbed. Plus, it's very hard to work and be able to have an invoice for 20 days worth of work per month in freelance. This is very tough. Unless you're working exclusively for a company, in that case, you should ask for a salary. If you're working full-time for a salary, you should ask for a salary. But work for freelance because it's tax haven for them. Yeah, I had a buddy of mine. He was a friend with Bob. He was like, hey, Tim, I got contacted by this company in Ukraine doing hentai games on a browser. Should I take the job? I was like, well, let's do some quick maths. How much are they paying you per illustration? 400 euros. So first I was like, excuse me. I was like, okay. Now, how much time does it take you to do that? Around 2 days. Okay, that's 200 per day. That's not that bad for a first job. So I was like, should I take it? Should I take it? That's I can make like a 5 illustration per month. That's like 2K per month. In freelance, it's not that bad and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, in theory, yes, but there's something called feedbacks. So even though you are doing an invoice for 2 days, maybe working like 3 hours per day across an entire week, because there's something called feedback going back and forth, and you can't really work 8 hours straight on the feedback. So it's pretty tough. I was starting to argue, so at sometimes I was like, okay, fuck it, do whatever you want. 3 months later, it just made 1,200 euros. It just made 3 illustration in 3 months.
Wow.
Congrats, buddy. Try to listen to me. So technically, it was working more times, more hours per week, and making less money than if he was working at McDonald's, basically. But a great sense of business. And this is not Bob. But no wonder that Bob and this guy were talking together. I mean, whatever. This is not to shit on people, by the way. This is just to tell you horror stories for you to avoid that. Don't be like those persons, please. Do the simple math and accept that if you are getting paid less than the minimal wage in salary, there's no shame to go to McDonald's for a few months to flip burgers. If you can survive and finally get a decent job after, thanks to that, because it saves you time. You're not slaving, doing some furry version of Zelda on the internet paid for cheap. You're not disgusting yourself out of your own art. And you save time. You can be more efficient on your portfolio, so you can get a job faster and better. So you're accessing the professional field that you want and deserve faster and easier. All right. Now, in a negotiation, it's all about protecting yourself. As we said yesterday, saying no provides a great opportunity for you and the other party to clarify what you really want by eliminating what you don't want. So if you are saying that you are not able to say no, you are dead. We'll see why later. It's going to be a bit dark. But you need to be willing to say no. You absolutely need to be able to say no when something you don't want is introduced on the table to you. If you don't want to do crunch, say no and stick to it. Because again, they will try to squeeze you, not because they are mean, but because it's part of the game. And they assume that you understand the game. If you don't understand the game and you are not negotiating and accepting everything, they stomp you. It's like stomping someone in Overwatch. Of course, don't be a jerk. Don't be like, no, fuck you, I'm not doing that. No. Just be like, you want me to do 10 hours of overtime per week? That's quite a lot. I'm sorry. I'm not expecting myself to do that. I have priorities outside of that. This is job. But my job is not my life. If they really insist on putting something you really don't want in your contract, if you really don't want it, you absolutely need to be willing to either stand your ground and take the risk to kill the interview because of that, or even just kill the interview right away and walk away. There's nothing more powerful as being able to say no. Because remember that at that point, if they negotiate with you, you have passed the art test, you have passed the first interview, the portfolio and stuff like that, it means that they really think that you are able to do the job. In some way, they start to kind of want to work with you. So if they really want you, they won't let you run away. They'll be like, oh, okay, let's forget about the crunch. But please don't sign a pact with the devil. Because once it's signed, it's signed. You have signed for it, you can't argue against it. You've signed for 15 hours of crunch per week, unpaid. But you have to do them. So you need to be okay with what you are signing for. If you don't want it, sorry, but you need to be willing to walk away, to stand your ground until maybe it can kill the deal. At least you are protecting yourself. Standing up for yourself right from the start during the interview is so important, because if you show that you have no boundaries, a company, because it's part of the game, again, we'd probably see how much they can squeeze you like a lemon. Remember the rules of the game. Don't hate the players, don't hate the game. Just learn the rules, understand the meta, and play to win. Because they will do the same and they are expecting you to do it too. If you don't show your boundaries and you comply by signing a pact with the devil, guess what? It will only get worse, because it shows that you have no boundaries. And they will try to challenge it again and again and again and again. Because the game is like, we need to squeeze that person until this person says no. So you start with 10 hours of overtime. Let's add 5. Oh, you don't bother to stay during the weekend. Oh, sorry, we have an emergency. You need to stay till 3 a.m. Wait, what? No, we don't have any mattress. And we are not calling you an Uber at 3 a.m. You pay for that. Oh, you're okay? You're unable to say no? Fine. Okay, let's do that. And see how it can go dark pretty fast? Basically, by testing your boundaries later about crunch, unpaid overtime, and stuff like that, if you don't stand up for yourself, that's exactly how you get those awful stories that we see on any... on any garbage video game journalist article like Polygon, Kotaku, Eurogamer, Vice, and such. Because they feed off those drama because it generates click. I mean, those stories are true and needs to be exposed, of course. But the way they are feeding out of that and want everyone to be angry and they are destroying companies by tanking the stocks, that's good. The common point in any of those horror stories that you might read or hear about, we got some recently in some companies, won't call the name, you probably heard about them, is that for whatever reason, the people getting harassed and hurt, first, they could not stand up for themselves, and or they couldn't quit. And I'm not saying this is entirely their fault, but there could have been ways for them to protect themselves against that. If only they were not afraid of the consequences of that. They did not do it because for whatever reason, they all told it. They all were talking about that. Let's take the kitty up here in the frame. Oh, kitty. For whatever reason, they all say that they could not leave the company. Maybe it was, I don't have any other opportunities. Or this is my dream job. Or, my God, I'm afraid I got blacklisted. Yeah, but you are accepting something unacceptable and you tolerated that to evolve until something horrible happens. So, changing the problematic people is one thing. Teaching people how to protect themselves and how to stand for themselves is another thing. And that's what I want to address a bit. Like the next part, which is basically do not give ammunition to the company or to the client to negotiate against you. We talked a bit about that later, and you will see how it gets back to those horror stories and why it happened only in dream companies. Or at least we talk about them into dream companies, and they're always like, this is my dream job, I cannot quit that, even if it's horrible at work. This is a nightmare job. This is not a dream job. But yeah, do not give them ammunition against you by, for example, failing the shit tests. You're like defensive when they're asking you, like, aren't you a bit young for that? And you're like, no, what do you mean? Immediately, if the HR is doing their job, they will be like, okay, this person has low confidence, we can crush that person. And by crushing you, it means that if you have no confidence and you share that, you actively display that, they will assume it will be easier to negotiate against you. Guess what? It will. Do not give them ammunition against you by saying something like, it's my dream job. Because in that case, they have a carrot they can dangle in front of you like, hey, as you say, it's your dream job. We're willing to gracefully give that to you only if you accept to do, I don't know, 15 hours of unpaid overtime, plus you crunch, plus you do this, plus you work at night, plus we don't give you some restaurant tickets and stuff like that. Oh, you complain about that, but that's your dream job. Don't you want it? I can gracefully offer you your dream job only if you comply. You see my point? Again, cardinal rule. The party that has the most power over the other is the one who needs the other the least. So by saying it's my dream job, you're like, you're bending over them like, oh my god, you are my stars, you are my dream, I love you. If you treat them like stars, they will treat you like fan. Which means they will treat you like shit. Do not say their company is shit. Do not say this is my dream job, this is my dream project. I've always been dreaming to work with you since I'm a kid. You're just giving them the stick to beat you with. Do not say, I need that job, please, to pay my loans, please. In that case, like, okay, you need that money. Okay. Otherwise, you are dead and the bank is killing you. Okay. Do the overtime, do this, be your slave. You want to comply? Oh, you can't because you need that money. But you want that money to pay your loans, otherwise you're dead, you're in the streets. Shut up and comply. Same if you say, I'm unable to say no, we explain that. Don't give them ammunition against you by saying you are the only company I'm applying to right now. So it's like, hey, are we the only one? Is that out of desperation? Or because that guy doesn't know any other company? Or because he got refused to other companies? In any case, we are a scarce resource. So we are the only light at the end of the tunnel for that person. So you can again dangle the carrot. It's not about not being loyal to the company. It's about something we said previously. Always be sourcing. Always be closing. And always be shining. Always be sourcing. It's like always be prospective towards other opportunities. Always be open to other opportunities. It doesn't mean that you need to accept them. Plus, you generally sign, if you are hired, you generally sign a contract that doesn't allow you to apply to other company while you are working there. So it's illegal to do that. But there's nothing that does not allow you to be in close contact with other companies or with other people working in other companies, to be in nice terms with them, to be basically shining on social media or on the internet, explaining that you are working, that you are eager, you are always looking for new opportunities, that you love new workspace, new opportunities, new environment, new challenges, that you are producing work outside of work, that you are a good element. This way, other companies, other people know that you are a good asset. So if for whatever reason you don't have a job now, they might be willing to hire you Plus, you're working in a company, so you proved that you are able to work in the industry. This is a bit more advanced. This is not for the first job. But what you want to say when they're asking you, are we the only company that you are applying to right now? Never say no. Never say yes. You always say something like, I'm in touch with other companies at the moment. You are the first one I'm getting an interview with right now. Plus, I really enjoy what you do, and you are one of my best choice. That might be a bit too much, treating them like a star. So let's rephrase that. Plus, I really like what you do. And judging by the discussion we had, it seems really nice. This way you tell them that indeed it's not that you are, it's that you might be in touch with other companies right now. So they can't treat you like you think they are a rare commodity. And even if you work there, keep that going. Keep that always be shining, always approach other studios. Don't be like, hey man, can I work with you? No. Just be in touch with other people working in other company. Become friends with them. That's part of networking. At some point, we'll have a video about that. But basically, just network with other people and make sure that people know your name and know that you're working there. This way, even if you quit or lose your job, you already have a big network of friends and colleagues to talk to, and that are basically aware that you are an active member of the industry, and they would gladly help you or even hire you once you are available. And if the company you are working with knows that other companies want you, despite you not saying, hey, can you hire me? Just you being a nice person, you'll be like, fuck, this person is in demand. So if you want to keep that person, we need to make sure it's treated well, because if your company treats him better, he will leave. That's how you climb the ladder in terms of payments. You end your first job. Next company is like, what was your salary? 3.3K? If you are smart, you say, no, it was not 3.3K, it was 2.7. It was not 2.3, it was 2.7. I'm like, okay, in that case, we need to go a bit higher. Let's say 2.8. I'm like, wow, it's a bit low. Can you go to 3K? 2.9? Okay, deal. This was already way above what you had before. Next company, it's like, what was your previous salary? Instead of saying 2.9K, you say, well, it was around 3.2, something like that. Oh, okay, so we need to go a bit higher, otherwise you won't leave. Let's say 3.5. Well, I might have another offer or other people willing to hire me for that. Is that true or not? They don't know, and that's none of their business. And they are not legally allowed to ask you to show paperwork because it's confidential. So if you play that well, it might be like, wow, this person is in demand. Okay, let's go for 4K. Wow. Deal. You went from 3K, 3.2 to 4K, and your goal was 3.5. See what I do? Just by playing with demand and offer, it's offer and demand. It's simple business. But you are just flipping the script, basically, by having options. And about having options, being in demand like that, this is the best way to protect you against harassment. Bear with me, okay? I'm not saying it's the victim's fault. I will never say that. But as a victim, you probably had the opportunity to run away, but for whatever reason, you couldn't. Or you thought you couldn't. Let's speak school harassment or overtime and stuff like that, but it probably applies to other stuff. Generally, it's something that establishes it's. This is going to be polarizing, so I'm sorry in advance. It's polarizing. Harassment, generally, it's not going from 0 to 9,000 in the snap of a finger. It's something that establishes itself gradually, goes up gradually until something absolutely unacceptable happens. Basically, it's about testing boundaries. Can I say that without facing any repercussion? Okay, this is the current boundaries. I'm going to push a bit stronger. No reaction. I can push even further, and so on and so on and so on. And that's how, by testing those boundaries and not facing any repercussion, you reach up to something unacceptable. And those predatory person, they often have either authority, or they know that this person is struggling because they have a debt to pay, so they need a job, or they are afraid, they are not assertive, they have no other options, so they might fear losing their job, so they are not standing up for themselves. So this predatory person knows they can abuse that. If you have options, and if you know you have options, there's nothing you will fear. If your lead or if your manager says something unacceptable, before it happens, you stand up, throw 2 middle fingers in the middle of the open spell. You call him names. Drop your badge. There's the HR telling you, hey, what are you doing? You're like, no, I'm quitting. Fuck off. And 1 week after, get hired to another company because everyone wants you. And for that, you need to not fall into that trap of, this company is my dream goal. You might think that, no problem. But if you condition yourself to think like it's your end game and there's nothing else, come on, there's thousands of companies in the world. So there's probably always another better company. You just don't know it yet, or you don't want to allow yourself to see it. If you're like, yeah, this company, it's my dream goal. Once I reach it, it's my end game. You condition yourself to think like that. Once you reach out to that, let's say it's shit. If you're still persuading yourself that it's your dream goal, you will accept something shit and stick to it just because you condition yourself to think like that. By thinking that there is a dream goal, there's a dream job and stuff like that, even if we have, no problem. By pursuing that all the time and not wanting to see other opportunities, not being open to that, you set up yourself for failure and for horrible situation. Because if at any moment someone predatory sees that in you, once you reach that, and understand that you will not stand up against that person because it's your dream job, because you have some kind of scarcity mindset. You're like, no, I won't be able to find anything else better or to find another job. I don't see myself anywhere else. That's a breach. It can slide through in order to do something bad to you. Might be overtime, might be harassment, might be other stuff. Won't call the names. You've read the articles. But we need to educate those persons to being willing to walk away. You work at Blizzard, you can work everywhere else. You work at Ubisoft, you can work everywhere else. So they are not lacking options. They probably set themselves up for terrible stuff by trapping themselves into that thinking. And probably stopping sourcing, stopping shining and stuff like that. And this is super sad because this is an opportunity for them to be safe. Instead of, there's the fact of addressing those problematic persons. There's also the fact of educating more people on how to stay safe. And this is a way to stay safe. Not blaming, there's no blame game. This is a way to make sure that if someone is trying to cross your boundary, before it reaches up to something unacceptable, you are already out. So you are protecting yourself. You might not be able to change those horrible person, and for that there is something called justice. But at least you are protecting yourself. And by example, by being like that, you might inspire other people to do the same. Of course, it's easier said than done. But most of the people that are getting trapped into the same job regardless if they are getting harassed or not. The problem is that they stopped sourcing, they stopped shining on the internet, they stopped closing the deals. At some point, people are like, basically, okay, this person is stuck. Let's not worry about that person and let's not consider that this person might be hired one day. Hello, Foskog, how are you doing? I don't remember if you commented on this already, but for a novice first timer, what is more recommended? Apply for a large company or start with a small studio? Large company. Because you want that big name. If you have like a Ubisoft, they're hiring all the juniors in the world. And you have Ubisoft on your resume. It's not paying the best. We have decent work condition. If not very good work condition, at least in Ubisoft France. You have awesome work conditions. At least in my opinion. I never did any hour of overtime. When I was at Ubisoft, we had free fruits, free coffee, free tea. We had a lot of parties in the studio. People were nice to me, at least. Can't talk for everyone else, but at least in my experience, it was good. But in any case, even if it's good, you need to be able to stand up for yourself. You can gain experience by applying to a big studio too. And this might be a trap too. 40-ish, only high seniors. Depend on your job. If you are doing concept art or matte painting, maybe. If you're in other jobs, maybe not. Concept art is a bit more elitist, to be honest. Because it has way more responsibilities. That's why it's paid a bit more. So, is that company only hiring juniors? It always depends on the job. Like BioWare, yeah, concept art has no junior, it's only senior. Same with Assassin's Creed. But 3D artist on Assassin's Creed, why not? If you have some props to do, no problem. Same with BioWare. So it always depends on your job. But yeah, small studio to gain experience. We're gonna talk about that tomorrow, but the traps to avoid. And this is one of the traps. It's like, hey, we're not paying well, but at least you will gain experience. What about getting paid well and getting experience too? Experience doesn't pay my bills. Experience doesn't pay my student loans. Or experience or exposure or shit like that. Don't want to spoil you the goodies for tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be spicy. But yeah, do not give companies ammunition to shoot you with. And the TLDR about that is always show that you have options and that you are in demand. If it's not the case, fake it till you make it. I don't care. I don't know if that's moral or stuff like that, but at least you are protecting yourself from potentially horrible stuff. It doesn't mean horrible stuff always happen. But any companies, that's what I hate with those journalists, like Kotaku, Polygon. It's like they're framing the stuff like it's an industry problem. It's only the video game industry's problem. No, it's the first time we are talking about that publicly. It's not a video game industry problem. Even though there are some catalysts I will talk about. It's a human problem. This happened in any other company. Just ask people working in banks. This is 10 times worse than video game industry. Video game industry is relatively safe compared to most of the other domain. But we need to remember that any company is a human sample. So if you have 10,000 people working in the same company as you, guess what? Chances are that maybe someone has a corpse in his or her garden. That's a human sample. Of course, the small bent on that is that we are in a passionate job field. Most of the people will be passionate. It's still a human sample. So if most of the people are very nice, like in any workspace, or at worst you don't care about them and they don't care about you, and you have nothing to talk about, you will never talk. The more people, the more chance for one bad apple in the basket. There just needs to be one bad apple to rot the entire basket. So don't expect it to be hell on earth, like those journals are trying to frame the events. Because by putting everyone in the same basket, they are hurting everyone. Because the stock are tanking, people are losing their job, dreams get crushed. And those people who get hurt by those articles, like the collateral damage, they didn't ask for anything. They were maybe not aware of the problem or were even victims. There are even more victims. Instead of saying it's this company's problem, just mention the names. Instead of hiding the perpetrators' names behind the name of the company, just mention the name and say it's their fault. Often they are very highly placed. So they say it's a culture within the company. You change the people highly placed. You remove those fucking HRs defending them that are corrupt. Replace that by sane people. You change the hierarchy and everything becomes sane. The culture, the quote-unquote culture in the company is defined by people. Stop saying it's an entity that is abstract because you are protecting those people in some ways. You're diluting the problem inside the entire company, so you can't target a specific problem. Just call the names and let justice do their stuff. That's just my heated rants on that, and I'm gonna get trashed for that, but whatever. But yeah. If you don't want them to negotiate against you, you need to show that you have option, that you are in demand. It's just offer and demand. And you flip the script thanks to that. And about flipping the script, once they know that you have options, if they still want you, now you dangle the carrot in your advantage. Like, oh, you know, well, can I replaceable? Can I get a job promotion? Can I get a raise, please? Everyone at the coffee machine is telling that I'm saving their ass all day long because every time there's a bug, everyone come to see me. Can I get a raise, please? No? Okay, I'm gonna... what's the end of my contract? 3 months? Okay, I'm gonna stay for 3 months, but then... sorry, I'm gonna move, I guess. Don't want me to move? Okay, so just increase my raise. And something you can do, at least at your scale for your first job, is what I said yesterday, making them qualified to you. When they ask you, do you have any question? If you feel that the interview went great, if you display that you had a bit of options by saying them, hey, I'm in touch with other companies right now, but you are the first one having an interview with right now. If they still really want you and they start displaying that they might be interested. When they ask you if you have questions, you are like, yeah, my turn to... You asked me previously what I bring to the table. May I ask you in a very polite way, let's say we work together. What are the advantages that the employees have besides the workspace? They have advantages outside of work, like restaurant tickets, concert tickets, gym memberships, transportation reduction, stuff like that. What are the benefits of working there? Or training session? If they display that with, by trying to sell you something, instead of saying, yeah, we have this, we have this, we have this, we have this, and that's it. They say, yes, you can actually get a gym membership. We're organizing events. We are renting. Sometimes we are privatizing the movie theater room, you know, to watch the movie with the entire company. We have some parties at every release of the game. Plus, you get some copies of the game for you and your family and your friends. And if you still want to buy more, you have reduction. Plus, we can offer you a gym membership because we are partnered with the gym just nearby. Plus, we are taking charge 50% of the transportation. Plus this, plus we have free foods, we have free coffee. As there are meetings all the time, you have croissant and bakeries all day long available for those that are not eaten. So you can eat them if you are hungry because you couldn't have a breakfast on the first day. They are trying to sell you something to get you excited, and it's a good sign, and they qualify to you. And this is a way to test the water. By the way, all of those advantages was Ubisoft ANSI. Quick shout out to them. So yeah, it's just like a game. It's not funny, I know. It can be, but it can be very, very not funny. But once you understand the rules, once you understand the power balance and the power relationship that you have between you and the company, once you understand the meta, first, make sure that you are safe, financially and harassment free. Then flip the script in your favor. That's part of the game. And you know what? They want that. They want to work with irreplaceable people that they value a lot because you are bringing so much to the table. And for that, you need to be willing to say no because you have options and you are not afraid of getting rejected. If you display that to them, it's a very strong assertiveness that you display. It's a very strong assessment that you are showing, and they will respect that. If instead you're like very shy and you are afraid of everything because you're so scared of losing that thing that they're dangling in front of you, they'll torture you with that. Not torture, it's the strong one, but they will slide in that crack. And they will get what they want, which is your time for as little money as possible. You have the playbook. And this is something that I know is kind of politically or socially incorrect, what we have been discussing right now. I'm aware of that. But this is something that very few other people on the internet will talk to you about, whether it's art related or business related in general. Why? Because first, companies don't want you to know that. They don't want the meta and the rules of the game to be exposed. Second of all, because we are talking about some spicy subject and some slippery subject as we did previously, and I'm kind of, well, that's part of the show, and we still need to handle that. That's just my grain of soul, by the way. It's polarizing, and people don't want to have that polarizing aspect. But yeah, you have the rules of the game that are exposed. And if you want to see, because you might be wondering, is that true? Just check even at the school. Do the teacher need you more or do you need them more? And if the school is a bit shitty, they will beat you down. They will tell you, hey, you know what? You need to do exactly what we want, even though it's not good for your portfolio. Otherwise, you get fired. Don't you want that degree? You can see that with school. You can see that with parents. Ask your parents about their relationship with their boss. And do your best to see how is the power balance. Are your parents more in demand? Or is the company more in demand for your parents? Maybe pretty tough because you might realize that your parents are a bit trapped sometimes. I'm basically teaching you to be a fucking pimp in the industry. How to act like a fucking pimp and how to be untouchable and protected. This is part of the game. This was a very spicy presentation. Is there any question before we wrap that up? I'm gonna join the Discord. And you can apply all of that for freelance work too, by the way. We didn't handle that too much because we want to focus on the first job. It's rare that you are in first job. But generally, if you know that you are bringing something unique to the table as a freelancer, like a quality or niche, something like that, you need to protect your time and ask for more. It's not about being a dick. It's not about being greedy. It's about protecting your time. You're in high demand. You cannot be a slave to all of that without protecting your time. My God. If you have some question, you can feel free to join the Discord down below and ask them directly. You can join me. At some point, that's something I realized. At some point, there's not going to be any reviews available on Twitch. Not yet. But by the end of the year, probably. You will have access to the replays maybe 1 week after on YouTube. But at some point, because we are delivering some gems right now. Again, it's not about being greedy. It's not about being a dick. It's about protecting my time, my efforts. Also making sure that people watching it live are rewarded. At some point, we're gonna have no replay on Twitch. It's going to be 1 week after on YouTube, so if you still want to see them. But the replay on Twitch might be accessible right now. Will be, at least. Probably with a sub or something like that at some point. This is an example on how you protect your time, how you see you have options, and how you see that when you are delivering content and good stuff, you need to make sure that you stand your ground, basically. But for now, enjoy. Till the end of the year, probably. Basically, once the mentorship is ready, it's going to be this way, probably. But for now, enjoy. Anyways, if you're watching that on YouTube, as always, feel free to subscribe. Feel free to comment down below to share your experience. Stuff like that. Please. About the polarizing stuff. I don't want any heated debate in the comments about that. If you want to share or people sharing testimonies and bringing something very heavy emotionally, let's keep it sane. Let's keep it safe. We are here to grow, not to change the world. Basically, this is just my grain of salt based on my experience and how I went from someone very shy who was getting harassed at school and stuff like that to someone who at least is able to stand his ground. Not getting harassed anymore. This is just my experience. Don't put me on a pike for that. But if you want to further discuss other subjects that we talked about today, if you want to share some testimonies about how you negotiated some stuff, feel free to share that. If you disagree completely, feel free to share that too, and we will find a solution together. I'm eager to hear about that. Feel free to join the Discord down below to join our amazing community. Feel free also to join us on Twitch to interact with us in the chat box. Ask your questions. Aside from the financial aspect, the best way to support my work, if you find it valuable, is to share that to people that you think might find it useful. People who need to hear that, who are kind of lost, or want to get their first job, bring them there. This is the perfect channel for that. This is not about technique and stuff like that. This is about mindset. This is basically everything that school won't have the time to teach you. They're too busy to teach you all the techniques that needs to be taught, sorry. And we are teaching you the rest. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap that up for today. Thanks a lot for coming, guys. Tomorrow is going to be about the traps to avoid, probably. And signing the papers. And today is going to be about artists, probably. In the meantime, take care, guys. Have a good evening.